Hi, Allison. In this particular video, I'm going to show you how I created a named range, which is this group of cells, and I called it scores, and also how I used a VLOOKUP function to automatically calculate the letter scores based upon this average score in this column. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to go to version history, and I'm just going to go back and restore this version from yesterday. So we're starting over. Okay. All right. So as you know, you manually entered the letter scores in here. Let's give it a minute to reload. So here I can see that you just manually enter, but you don't want to do that. You want the power of spreadsheets to work for you. You want the spreadsheet to automatically calculate this letter score. You've created the VLOOKUP table correctly. You have this in ascending order, which is a necessary component of the VLOOKUP function. It has to start with 0 or the lowest number and go to the highest number. So you have this created correctly. All you need to do is add your function to this particular cell. Let's go ahead and just get rid of all these, and we'll start with cell C3. And as you know, you begin every formula or function with an equal sign, and we're going to start with VLOOKUP. And I just type in V and L, and Google Sheets says, hey, do you want to use the VLOOKUP formula? I click that. So it begins the correct syntax, which is equals VLOOKUP, opening parentheses, and then the first value you'll enter in here is going to be this value, your average score. This formula or function is telling you that you want to take this value in this particular cell, and then you want to refer to the values in this table and return the value in column 2. That's where the number 2 is at the end of the formula. Return the value in column 2 that most closely matches these values in column 1, but doesn't go over the number. So we're going to do a comma, and then we're going to select this array of cells, because this is the VLOOKUP table essentially, and then another comma and 2, and then close the function with the closing parenthesis. So let's look it up. Here we go. We have the correct letter score. Now, as you know, by default, spreadsheets use relative cell references. And so that means if you use the fill handle, we'll just show you to copy this formula down, it's not going to be correct because it will keep referring to the next lower set of values. So if we look at the VLOOKUP table, now it's changed from, it should be E15 to F23, but now it's E16 to F24. So it's selecting the row and column below, which we don't want that. We want it to only select these cells for each of the cells that we copy down. We can fix this by making this an absolute cell reference by putting in the dollar signs. So I will do that. Oops. I didn't mean to do that. All right. So now I've made this, I've said with these dollar signs, it says every time you copy this formula, use only this array of cells. So if I drag the fill handle down now, the formula works correctly. But let's say I didn't want to put those dollar signs in. There's another way to make absolute cell reference of cells, and that is called the named range. So what I want to do is create a named range. So I'm going to do data and then named ranges. And I want to add a range here. So I'm going to do a named range, and I'm going to select these cells. And I'm going to call this named range scores. You can always edit it if you need to change anything, or let's just delete it. You can always delete it too. So again, to create a named range, you can do it a couple ways. You can add a range, or I'll show you another way you can do it. You can select the cells, and then you can do data, named ranges, and see how it's already selected these cells. We'll call this scores, and we'll click done. So that's another way. And you just want to make sure that you are selecting the correct cells. So let's go back to this first. Let's go ahead and just delete all these now. Let's go back to this, and we're going to use the named range now in the VLOOKUP function. I just like creating named ranges because I don't have to worry about remembering the dollar signs. So we'll do equal VLOOKUP, and we're going to start with this cell, and then comma, and we called that scores. So here we go. It's right down here. Scores, comma, 2, close the parentheses, and there we go. Now we'll copy that formula down, and we have just created a VLOOKUP formula or function with a named range that will automatically calculate letter scores. I hope this video helps.